Hello guys, full time here at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal 1, Bournemouth 2. Far from ideal preparation for the Paris Saint-Germain second leg for Arsenal. And a game that has significance really just the Premier League campaign on its own. There was a bit of booing, I've got to say, at full time today. Not widespread, but there were some boos, certainly around the press box here. A lot of fans had already left the stadium. That is not the send-off that we wanted the team to get ahead of a huge tie in Paris on Wednesday. But I can understand some of the frustration because Arsenal's Premier League campaign is petering out in quite a bad way. Personally, my feeling is you cannot fake. You can't fake it. You can't fake it mattering. We're seeing that. This is a team that showed last season that when the Premier League title's within their grasp, they are able to be absolutely focused on that. But I think after 2 years of going so close in the race for the Premier League and ultimately coming up short, when Liverpool disappeared over the horizon, when they felt, whether they admitted it or not, that the title was beyond them, we have seen the concentration go. We have seen the concentration go. We've seen uncharacteristically sloppy errors creep in all sorts of situations. I mean, think of David Raya's passing in open play. Even William Saliba's had the odd wobbly moment, although he made some excellent tackles today. And set pieces. 2 goals off set pieces today. That will be hugely frustrating for Mikel Arteta. 2 really simple goals to give away. A long throw and a corner. And Arsenal just not switched on enough, not hungry enough, desperate enough to get to that first ball. And I think Arteta, his press conference will be interesting because I think he'd like to come out and lambast his team. I think he'd like to let them have it. I think he'd like to be very critical today. But maybe he feels like he can't be. With Wednesday on the horizon, with PSG around the corner, just a few days away, he may feel a need to try and buoy his team, to try and support them. It's looking tough right now. I mean, if Arsenal win the Champions League, the end of this Premier League campaign will be forgotten and forgiven. I can assure you of that. But we don't look like a side who's about to do that. We do not. And I know already we've shown in the Real Madrid tie that there's not necessarily a correlation between our domestic form and our European form, but I'd be feeling a lot better about Wednesday if we'd won convincingly today. Mikel Arteta picked a really strong team, a really strong 11, and they came up short. You know, PSG were beaten this weekend, second time in 2 weeks, but they heavily rotated. They, rested almost their entire team. I think it was only Neves who played against Arsenal, and who probably will play against Arsenal on Wednesday night. So they will come into that game fresher. And players like, let's say, Martin Odegaard, who I think Arteta was probably hoping could play themselves into some sort of form today, didn't. It did not happen. I think the players who emerged with credit are maybe Saliba, who, like I said, probably prevented there being another 1 or 2 goals in Bournemouth's favour, and Declan Rice, who restored to that number 8 role, was brilliant, scored an excellent goal, almost playing in the centre-forward position, running beyond the Bournemouth defence, going around the goalkeeper. 34 goal contributions in 100 games for Arsenal. That is really excellent. I mean, if a naturally attacking midfielder was producing that, you'd be happy with it. Given what Arsenal anticipated for Rice when they signed him, he's far outstripped those expectations, albeit playing in a more advanced, more adventurous role. I think that is clearly the vision for him at Arsenal, is that box-to-box role, getting into the final third. And he did it very well today, a great goal. But then, the game got away from us a bit. Bournemouth were very much in it. Probably a bit disappointed to be behind at half-time. And really, once Antoine Semenyo came on, he was such a threat. Obviously, creates the first goal with the long throw, but the running in behind, the dribbling. He's a really good player. I know lots of Arsenal fans who like him. I think he is an Arsenal fan as well. But he really raised the threat level for Bournemouth. Dean Hoyson obviously gets a goal. Interesting to see him today. He's a very good player. But with a release clause of £50 million, I don't know how excited Arsenal fans are going to get about that. when you look at the other areas of the squad that need improvement, I think a lot of Arsenal fans would say, well, if Jakub Kiwior can be persuaded to stay, he's shown he's a perfectly adequate backup in that left centre-back role. You know, do we really need to move him on and potentially pay, you know, double what we'd get for him for a player like Hoyson? I don't know. I mean, obviously, Hoyson's 6 years younger, 5 years younger. He might have the higher ceiling. Arsenal might really believe in him, but I would understand people who might question that decision strategically at a time when there are so many other areas of the squad that need improvement. But a nice header on the goal. Second goal, there was a lot of VAR review, I think looking at an offside, looking at handball. I haven't really seen great replays of it from here. Looked to me like he just sort of bundled it in at the far post. Odegaard probably not strong enough in that position. There's been a lot of debate and sort of criticism of Martin Odegaard's performances. I actually think today he really struggled. I think for me, struggled more today than he did against PSG in the week, which is saying something. But Arsenal have no choice but to play him, and I think that's part of the issue with Odegaard. There are no real obvious alternatives in the squad apart from 18-year-old Ethan Ranieri, who, by the way, I think might justifiably have some questions over how limited his game time has been in recent weeks. You know, again, we were into sort of the final few minutes of the game before he gets on the pitch, with Odegaard struggling, with Saka coming back from a long-term injury. And Ranieri, I think, justifiably could say, I'd expect to play a bit more than this, actually. You know, especially with these games, Premier League games, not really going to plan. So, I think it would be really disappointing to be overhauled in the league table. I don't think there's any real jeopardy of us finishing outside of that top 5. I know it's possible, but I don't see it happening. But I think to be reeled in by City, given the season they've had, or certainly by Newcastle, would be really disappointing. And I think it's quite important that Arsenal finish second, actually. You know, I think second place in a Champions League semi-final, I think, you know, while we all want to win something, I think most fans could kind of get their head around that. And who knows, they might go better than that in the Champions League. But dropping into third, fourth, I feel like there's been a lot of games recently which we've said, well, you know, does the league matter? We've had injuries, you know, focused on Europe. They're kind of isolated, one-off things. But I think now there's a pattern. There's a proper pattern of like underperformance in the Premier League in recent times. Too many draws, a defeat today, and it's a pretty underwhelming end to the Premier League campaign. And actually, like the 11s we're putting out at this point are pretty strong. I know we don't have the centre forwards, but I know we don't have Gabriel. Maybe we're feeling that at set pieces too. The set piece record is concerning. I mean, I don't think PSG will carry their most threat that way. I think their threat's going to be an opening play, but if you look at the 4 teams who've conceded more goals from us from dead balls, I think it's Southampton, Ipswich, Wolves and Man U or something like that. I'll get that right actually because I've made that up. Ipswich, Man U, Southampton and Wolves, yeah. So yeah, a disappointing day. Disappointing that we've not been able to give the team the send-off we would have wanted. But I understand the frustrations. This is a poor result, poor performance, and it's part of a pattern. It is part of a pattern, and yeah, it's petered out. Don't know what else to say. I'll leave it there for now, guys. I'll speak to you on Wednesday night. I'm going to be here at the Emirates Stadium at the screening, not in Paris. So I think there's about 5,000 fans at the moment coming to that. So it should be, hopefully, a good atmosphere. And who knows, might be a much happier video as well. All right, guys. Take care. Speak soon. Bye-bye.